Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Fanatics. Or if you happen to be new here, please don't forget to click away at that big fat subscribe button. So today I'm talking to you about episode 2 of Resident Alien entitled Homesick. I gotta say, I laughed all the way through this episode. It was really funny. It's very rare that I would laugh multiple times over the course of an episode, but I just found myself, every scene had something really amusing in it that really tickled my funny bone. So I'm going to go through the episode and take a look at some of the highlights and bits and pieces that I found really funny in this episode, and just how the series is starting to evolve, which I'm really loving it. So let's take a look. Episode 2, Resident Alien. So for starters, just a little bit of in-trivia for this episode. One of the executive producers on the show and the director of episode 2 was none other than Robert Duncan McNeill. Other sci-fi fans, I'm sure, would recognise that name as being Tom Paris, who was one of the characters in Voyager. Robert Duncan McNeill obviously has moved on from acting and is now a very accomplished director, and he was responsible for the directorial efforts of this episode. Now, episode 2 pretty much starts off where episode 1 left off, with Harry in the surgery, the doctor's office or whatever, going to examine the young boy Max, who can see him in his true form. And I've got to say, I like this little dynamic. It's kind of dark, but it kind of works. Like, there's this kind of rivalry between Max and Harry where they just don't get along. Harry is trying to kill him. He's sick of this kid who's kind of compromising his covert operation on Earth. There are these fun little moments where, even though they're kind of dark and this guy is sort of trying to kill a kid, the way it's done, I think they get away with it. It's done in a sort of a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, and there's some really funny moments there where the kid's running out the window, Harry's kind of chasing him with a saw, threatening to cut his head off, and no one's believing him. It's dark, but I found it funny. There's an interesting scene at the opening of this episode with the hiker falling off the cliff while trying to take a selfie and then landing on Harry's ship anti-grav plate or whatever. It sort of shows a little bit more about his technology and the ship and how it works and all that sort of thing, but it also adds a bit of mystery to the opening of this episode. I like the joke about the almond milk being the leading cause of death in humans, and the grey aliens won't even touch the stuff. That was a nice little joke. I love the scene at the start of this episode where Harry's trying to brush up on his doctoring skills, and he's having to kind of research stuff on the internet using his phone, and he's got a patient in the clinic that needs a kind of pelvic exam, and he's sort of trying to look up answers on his phone whilst under the sheet, and he's like taking photos of this poor woman. It was one of those situations that's just, I think this show is just thriving on these kind of awkward, inappropriate moments that just really kind of make you cringe but make you laugh kind of, out loud at the same time. And the girl has obviously got a piercing, and Harry thinks that's part of the problem and kind of tries to pull it out. It's just these absurd situations where he doesn't understand things that humans do to ourselves for decorative reasons, and mistakes it for some form of injury. So there's plenty of these moments in this episode, and they had me laughing out loud all the way through. And next we get a whole lot of patients that Harry is sort of seeing, and he's being incredibly inappropriate with all of them. And, he's got old patients and young kids, and every one he sees, he manages to offend in some way. It's really classic kind of fish out of water humour, which works really well. And just when we think Harry has kind of got a handle on things and is kind of dealing with the situation a little bit more professionally, he tells the woman that's having the breast exam, "Let's get a look at that tit." So there's a whole string of gags in this scene here, which play out really funny. Meanwhile, Max, the kid who can see Harry in his true form, has got Liv, the deputy, to do a photo sketch of the alien, and he's then plastered it up all over town, trying to get other people aware of the fact that there's an alien in this small town, which Harry isn't too happy about. And we see a little bit more backstory as well about Harry's process in terms of how long it actually took him to master the art of masquerading as a human, where he's at home, he's kind of trying to walk, stumbling around, he's trying to brush his teeth, he's got toothpaste all over his face, he's trying to smile in the mirror based on an Anne Hathaway picture in a magazine. He's obviously taken quite some time to learn the art of working as a human. And he's not going to let Max the kid upset his plans, because it's taken him too long to master being Harry. He can't change to somebody else, so he's going to have to deal with that situation. And I love the scene between Harry and Max where Harry's rung on the phone. He's pretending to be a little kid from Max's school, putting on this kind of weird Sesame Street Elmo type voice, and Max sees straight through his plan, starts asking him questions, then he changes his tack to he's a worker at the post office, but then that doesn't fit because he's putting on a kid's voice. Max is no idiot, and Harry is doing his best to deceive him. The kid is too smart. He sees right through it. Next is a cute scene where Harry goes back to the bar where he had all the whiskey shots in the previous episode and has a bit of a chat with the bartender Darcy, who's quite flirtatious. She clearly wants to go out with Harry. There's sort of a bit of a tongue-in-cheek conversation where Harry's kind of talking about the people that he's murdered, but he's kind of doing it in a sarcastic way and putting on this sort of weird sort of sarcastic laugh to kind of cover it up. Alan Tudyk is like the best comic actor, I think, in these sorts of moments. I was in hysterics for a large part of these scenes where he's just sort of trying to be human and just coming across in this sort of weird, goofy, kind of dorky kind of way. There's some great comedic moments that just play on that socially awkward dynamic. I love the flashback scene when we sort of see the alien when he first arrived on Earth and needing some sustenance, and he kind of stumbles into a barn, and you kind of think he's going to eat the cow that's in the barn, but then ends up just feeding off the milk from its udder. It's one of those kind of things where you expect it's going to go one way and it just takes a left turn and goes the other way entirely. Harry also tries his hand at the dating scene where he goes out with Darcy, the bartender, and they go to the local bowling alley, and Harry reckons he's got it all sorted out because it's all math, and if he can land a spaceship on an asteroid, surely he can work out the angles required to get a strike. Sheriff Mike Thompson is there. He's being all big and bravado with his kind of I'm the best bowler and gets a strike and everything, and obviously Darcy gets a strike, and then the pressure's on for Harry to get a strike. Although his math and everything is without question, perhaps his choice for when he lets go of the ball needs improvement, as obviously lets go of it too soon, and it goes backwards and hits Mike Thompson in the nuts. And it was one of those scenes where you expect it's going to go one way, and it then just takes a turn and goes the other way, to great comedic effect. And I kind of winced and jumped out of my seat and laughed at the same time. This was some really funny comic moments. And again, Harry tries to do in poor little Max, this time cutting the brake line on his bike, expecting him to tear off down the road and into traffic and get killed. But it doesn't quite go to Harry's plan, and the kid ends up just falling off his bike in the driveway, but still needs a couple of stitches. And then there's this sort of feud showdown where Max is trying to be all brave, and Harry refuses to give him any kind of pain medication or whatever during the stitches, and the kid's putting on a brave face because he's kind of trying to look tough in front of the alien because he's now not scared of him at all. There's this great feud that's going on between Max and Harry, where it's sort of almost kind of like your Road Runner and Wile E. Coyote kind of routine going on. It's fun to see how it plays out. There's some great moments of drama and emotion in this episode as well, where we get to see Asta talk about the loss of Sam, the previous doctor, and they had a bit of a father-daughter thing going on. She was obviously more than just the nurse in the surgery for him. Clearly, Asta is feeling the loss of Sam quite deeply. and which she talks to her father about. And there's a nice scene with Asta and her father as well going into this, and also a little bit of information about the fact that Asta's dad isn't getting a feeling about Harry when he normally gets feelings about all the men in Asta's life. So there's a bit of an interesting thing there, maybe sort of a spiritual element perhaps coming into the episodes, where maybe Native Americans have got some sort of sixth sense about whether they can sense Harry being an alien or human or something to that effect. I'm sure that'll continue and play out in future episodes. Now, to help in Harry's quest of finding his missing extinction device, he's managed to refine some minerals and metals and so forth from a local mine, blend that with some other bits and pieces, do a bit of cooking at home, and create some form of anti-grav technology. And this plays into our hiker at the start of the episode, who fell off the cliff but was then cushioned by the anti-grav device. Harry is building a replacement, or he's building some other form of anti-grav technology at home using bits and pieces he's found around the place, and minerals he's mined from the local cave. And at the end of the episode, it would seem a couple of other hikers managed to find the body of the hiker we saw at the start of the episode, who's hovering on this anti-grav plating. That's obviously part of Harry's crashed ship, and there's a couple of dead crows there with him, and they're taking photos. So obviously Harry is running out of time to find his lost device before the word starts to get out. We're only 2 episodes into this show, and I'm loving this series. It does a really nice job of blending the comedy, the drama, and the mystery all into one. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment in the comments section. Let me know if you're enjoying Resident Alien, and whether you laughed as much in episode 2 as I did. There's some great moments in here. I gotta say, I'm definitely in it for the season. I'll be back very soon for another video. But guys, please don't forget to like, to comment, to share, to subscribe. Click on my merchandise page. There's some cool t-shirts there and so forth to have a look at. And if you're interested, check out memberships with Sci Fanatics by clicking the join button. And I will see you guys very soon for my next review.